in Washington, and 1 o'clock in the Czech capital Prague, where politicians from right around the world are attending the funeral of Václav Havel, the former playwright, dissident and ultimately president not just of Czechoslovakia but then of the Czech Republic, died on Sunday at the age of 75. Havel was the leading light in the so-called Velvet Revolution, the peaceful overthrow of the communist regime just weeks after the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Well, Václav Havel first made his name as a playwright in the 1960s, and thanks to the Prague Spring of '68, he was able to satirise the communist old guard in Czechoslovakia to considerable public acclaim. But the Soviet invasion later that year saw his work banned and he was driven underground. He became Czechoslovakia's most famous dissident. He was jailed for anti-state activity. Well, in 1989, when communism fell, he moved in just a matter of months from being a political prisoner to president of his country. He subsequently became head of state of the Czech Republic as the country split into 2 states. Well, the BBC's diplomatic correspondent James Robbins is in Prague, where his funeral is already underway. James, over to you.
Well, for more than an hour now, we've been listening and watching on big screens here in the courtyard at the gates of Prague Castle. We've been listening and watching the remarkable, magnificent state funeral for Václav Havel. We've been listening to apocalyptic music by the most famous of all Czech composers, Antonín Dvořák, from his Requiem Mass. We've been listening to the triumphant music, too, of the Alleluia Chorus by Handel from his Messiah. And we've been hearing testimony about the man whom all Czechs today want to remember and to honour. And I'm joined now by Peter Brod, who is a former head of the BBC's bureau here in Prague, who can help us by describing some of what the Archbishop was saying in his very personal address. The Archbishop of Prague, who was also a fellow prisoner of Václav Havel when they both fought against communism.
That's right. It was back in the 1980s. They spent some time in the same prison. They became friends, and the Archbishop continued in the vein of friendship by addressing the late president by his first name. He talked to him, so to speak, throughout his address. He said, "Dear Václav, we are taking leave of you, but we know that you share with us some of the visions of the Church." He denied vehemently that Václav Havel was an agnostic. He said that, in fact, especially in the last weeks of his life, when they had extensive conversations, which were also recorded for television, it was clear that Václav Havel had found God. But that was not the only message. Obviously, he also recalled, the Archbishop also recalled some of the key moments of President Havel's term of office. For example, the first visit by a pope, which was the Polish Pope John Paul in the spring of 1990, a time when Václav Havel said, "I do not know what a miracle is, but this visit is surely a miracle." So it was a combination of the address of a church prelate and a very personal friend.
Mr. Brod, thank you very much. Well,